everybody. Welcome to Heal Your Shadow Relationships. I am your host, Neola Sparkus, and I'm so pleased to welcome today Dr. Lara Fernandez and Johnny Fernandez, who are a soulmate couple. And their mission is to empower single, conscious women through their relationships. When a woman owns their power, this is what Johnny and Lara say, when a woman owns her power, speaks her truth about herself and her life, and has healthy beliefs and behaviors around relationships, then soulmate love becomes her destiny. And I love that. It's just something that naturally flows out of that. So women from all over the world learn with Johnny and Lara through their deeply transformational and life-changing courses. You've got programs of all sorts, and it helps women live the life of their dreams with their soulmate by their side, which is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And they also have a yearly Love Breakthrough Weekend, which attracts conscious women from all over the world to the San Francisco Bay Area of California. They have been happily married for over 13 years and live in a cute little town in the Bay Area with their very independent and creative daughter, Isabel, and sweet dog, Bean. I'm happy to hear that because I used to have a cat named Bean. So, cool. So welcome, Dr. Lara and Johnny, to Heal Your Shadow Relationships, and we're going to be talking about the shadow. So let's just give a quick little, definition perspective. How do you see the shadow? How do you see the shadow relationship?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Neola, for having us here. Yeah. We're really honored to be a part of this video conference, and thank you for having us here. We're glad to be here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Cool. So we talked about, you were asking about the shadow, and really this is the part of ourselves that sometimes we're resisting. We're trying to not have that be part of ourselves. And so that comes up when we see it in other people, we get extra annoyed about that particular issue, but also keeps us sometimes in fear about this part of ourselves that we'd rather not kind of let out. So that shadow is really the part of us that may not be what feels like our higher self, but in truth is really part of our whole self. So I'm sure you've touched on this before, but that's kind of our definition of it.
I love how everybody really has different words for it, and you really had a very unique perspective on it yourself. So I love that. I think our viewers are not at all going to be bored with hearing this. So we're here working on that part of ourselves, as you say, that you just don't really want to own or accept. And you said it's not part of the higher self, but would you agree that it's a doorway to the higher self?
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't think it's part of our higher self. It doesn't feel like it, but it's definitely a doorway to our higher self because it's part of our whole self.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. It is part of the whole self, so why deny it? That causes more trouble. Yes. But it's not so easy to look at it when you have so many defenses in place against wanting to look at it or own it or see it. How can you help people to recognize when they are not accepting some part of themselves?
Well, how to help them recognize? Well, I think that what comes to mind right now is just raising your awareness is the first step to change. And I think that all of your viewers that are watching this video conference are really raising up their awareness. So you're just doing it right now. Just raising your awareness of what the shadow is and how it affects you and your relationships and really your entire life. So that's the first step to change, is just by reaching out, learning from others who have, like ourselves, like you, have addressed the shadow and maybe in different ways, but have addressed the shadow in our relationships so that we can find our divine right partner, a partner that is really a match for who we are. So that's the first thing that I think by just reaching out for information and new awareness is a way to really start shifting that shadow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the first step. I think Louise Hay said As soon as you feel resistance, that means that you're growing in the right direction.
Exactly.
So that is the first step. So I happened to look at one of your courses online, and you offer so many fabulous, amazing courses and programs. And one of them was called Love Launch. And in it, you describe 10 of the common pitfalls in dating and mating. So I was wondering if we can go through some of these. This is part of the shadow. This is what we're talking about. What are some of the things that are getting in our way, the obstacles that are keeping us from finding that true love that we're looking for? So the first one says, you've been floundering around long enough on your own and you're sick and tired of attracting the wrong man. So let's address the shadow side of that. And how would you counsel somebody who's in that situation?
So when we talk about like kind of floundering around, it's we always say something like that in a respectful way, of course, in that we're always trying to do the best that we can in whatever it is, in dating and in whatever, in our business, anything like that. So we're always trying to do the best that we can. And unfortunately, because we didn't learn in school like how to have a healthy relationship, we spent a lot of time on algebra and carrying the number here and there, but not enough time about like how do we carry ourselves through the ups and downs of life. And so when we talk about kind of floundering around, it's really a matter very often of not making relationships a high priority. First and foremost, your relationship with yourself, because we talk about before you have a relationship with a soulmate other, you need to have a relationship with your soulmate self within. Mm-hmm. And so when you make yourself in a healthy relationship with yourself a high priority, then what you start to see is you start taking better care of yourself. Yes. And you start to look at, like you do in anything else, how can I get better than what I am right now? Because whether it be learning how to drive, learning how to play the piano, learning how to be a doctor or a lawyer, we learn from someone who is an expert in that area, who had just spent more time in that area, and maybe is a few steps ahead of us, or a lot of steps ahead of us. Either way, they can help us with that area. And so when you're kind of floundering around, you're kind of like making it a low priority in your life. And our invitation is to make it a much higher priority in your life so that you can start to get the success that you're really wanting, that unfortunately, like anything else, learning how to drive, learning how to play the piano, becoming a doctor lawyer, is not just going to fall out the sky and land on you without any effort or attention whatsoever. Regardless of what the romantic comedies tell us and things like that, it generally doesn't happen that way. We have to put forth some energy and some intention.
I know there's so many things they don't teach us in school. I wish there was a class in this, especially like as you're getting into preteen area or whatever, Mm-hmm. And as you say, if you're making that relationship, finding a relationship, and I understand that some people just aren't ready and it's not time for them, but if you feel that you are ready, and making it a priority is really taking care of yourself.
That's it.
And so it's, again, a reflection of your relationship with yourself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tell you the next one. You said, you can get a date anytime, but you're clear that finding your soulmate is not a numbers game, no matter what we've been told by the experts. Because if it was, you would have found your love by now.
Exactly.
So how do you help somebody who is in that situation?
So in our society, we are told that finding your guy, finding your gal, is all about the numbers. It's a numbers game. You just got to kiss 100 frogs till you get to your prince, that kind of thing. And Johnny and I, our philosophy is that's not necessary. I mean, that is one way to go, and some people do choose that, but that is not the way that I personally, when I did my intentional and conscious journey to attract him, that is not what I did. I did not kiss 100 frogs, nowhere near 100 frogs to get to my prince.
It'll leave you with some serious chapped lips, I think.
Exactly. I think that the reason that people suggest that is because there is some truth to the numbers game in other areas of the world. There is some truth, like in business, there can be a numbers game that you need to talk to only so many potential customers before one becomes one, before you find a customer. So I get where that's coming from. I think that the journey to finding your soulmate, to finding that person that's right for you, begins with yourself. Like we were talking about in that first step, it begins with yourself and knowing yourself and preparing yourself for love. Like really preparing yourself, not just talking about it, not just thinking about it, but the inner work, the excavation that it takes to be prepared, to be ready to accept love. And so many people, when they are getting out there and with the idea of I'm going to kiss my 100 frogs, what is happening is they are kind of learning about themselves by bumping up against 100 guys to date or 100 gals to date. The mirror is being held up, that mirror, right? And so we both don't think that's necessary at all. You can do the inner work, and your whole life, this kind of work that we do with our clients, their whole life gets better. Everything gets better. Everything rises in the vibration when you rise in vibration. And when you're conscious and intentional, you don't need to date that many people. It can actually be just a few. Just really just a few people before you find your right person. That's been our experience.
I think a lot of people will find that kind of astonishing to hear you say that. But I think the thing that you said is so important is you got to do the excavation work, and that's the way that you prepare yourself.
Yes.
So either you kiss a ton of frogs and get chapped lips, or you do it this way.
Right. And that excavation work, like it takes courage to say, I'm willing to do what it takes to make myself a higher priority. Mm-hmm. And the thing now we work exclusively with women, but in the masculine feminine dynamic, the thing that is the most attractive for a man is a woman who values herself highly and treats herself well.
Yes.
And so
to a healthy man, most attractive to a healthy man.
Right. Of course. Which is what we want.
That's all we want.
Right. And so, like, one of the things that we find, like, we have our Love Breakthrough weekend. So women, will fly in from wherever, all over the U.S. and outside the U.S. and Europe and stuff like that to be there. And so for 2 days, they make themselves and their desires a high priority. And for the overwhelming majority of our population, that has never been true. 48 hours devoted to me and my intentions, not like what's convenient in the moment, like cotton candy, but my true heart's intentions, and then actually looking at and learning about how I have been stopping myself in the past. Oh my God, this has never been done. People will take a weekend workshop on how to get relicensed in their profession, but not take a weekend workshop on how to really address the inner blocks to love and then clear those away so they can move forward. And so when we look at making yourself a higher priority, it's got to show up somewhere in your life. And that's, unfortunately, it's like we live in a society that is encouraging you to like shop till you drop and buy a zillion things and stuff like that, but not to go within, not to really do that. Yeah. And so it takes the person who really is like a rebel to go outside of the mass, sheep of society and say, you know what, I'm going to make myself a high priority. It's what you're doing, like viewers right now, it's what you're doing and showing up to something like this right now.
Yes.
Is you're making yourself a higher priority because, it's not like you're going to get a new handbag out of this, like this is about what's deeper inside. Not that there's anything wrong with new handbags.
Let us be clear.
Right?
Let us be clear. Well, I think also that traditionally women are really socialized to give, take care of others first. If you're growing up as a child, you might be taking care of the younger children. Or as you grow up, of course, and you're encouraged to have children, you're taking care of the children. Then your parents get older, you're taking care of the kids. The parents, they're like kids. And, we women, we give so much and we're there for so many people that it's like such an about face. Like you say, it's almost like it takes a rebel spirit to say, wait a minute, I'm going to turn attention to myself. And so many women really, honestly, don't even know how to do that. So how would you help a woman who doesn't even have a clue? It feels so foreign to receive, to focus on herself, to make her needs a priority. How can you help that side of the shadow right there?
I'm thinking right now of a client that we had who just graduated from our advanced program. And she was a go-getter. She is a go-getter in her life. I mean, she's a minister at her church. She's a shaman. She speaks at different conferences all over the world. She's a rock star. She's absolutely amazing. And this is one of the things that we talk about where people block themselves from attracting love. This is what she was doing. She was overcommitting herself to so much. She was so busy with everything else in her life, like with all of her amazing things. It's not like they were bad things, right. But we have a saying that even opportunities can be obstacles. And so she was saying yes to every opportunity, but what she really was wanting was to find her soulmate. I mean, that was a high priority. So what happened when she started working with us is that we helped her to say yes to less opportunity and more yes to herself and to her time for herself. And that's a big one, because we see that that's one of the biggest ways that just badass women, amazing women, block themselves from attracting love. And that's where they make themselves so busy, so committed to everybody else, that there's no time to be quiet, to go within, to tap into the intuition, to dig up the shadow and take a look at that. There's no space for that. And so that's what we advised her to do, is to start to create that space, to create spaciousness in her life. That was huge for her. And she just met her guy, and they're together. And we just got an email, and she showed me a picture recently, and so it was really about her starting out. There's a lot to it, but starting out with creating the space in her life and not overcommitting to everybody else, but first and foremost, practicing commitment with herself.
That is so great. That is so great, and that's so radical. We're taught that work is most important, the money flow is most important, and then you start taking on commitments, and then you have to fulfill those commitments, and then you have to stay, otherwise you're not responsible, you're not, there's so much that supports that lifestyle, like you said earlier, Johnny, that the society reinforces that we're not to take care of our inner self at all.
Right. And it's a mindset of there's not enough. There's not enough time for you. There's not enough money for you. There's not enough love for you, and you're not doing enough.
Right.
And so if you're not doing enough, you got to do more. And this is not only is it not a healthy thing for anybody, but it's especially not healthy in the feminine for a woman, because you are. It is more healthy to allow yourself to take good care of yourself than to do. Not that you don't do. I mean, my wife's a doctor and she's awesome, stuff like that.
Sure.
And so you do things, but that's not the main thing that your life is about. And like in this woman's case, she was still ministering and, just being amazing. She just also was balancing it with some time for herself and her true desires, not just her obligations, but her true desires within. And unfortunately, sometimes because of the idea of either I can be strong and independent or I can be in a relationship, well, who's going to pick, let me not be strong and independent, And what we say is if you have a healthier balance, you actually can be strong and independent and in a relationship, but you just got to give some time for yourself. And with that spaciousness, then you can also absorb new information. Because we do a lot of teaching and stuff, but you can't fill a cup that's already full.
Exactly.
That's a great way of putting it. Interesting that you use the analogy that it's a cup already full, and yet what caused you to get there is the scarcity mentality, that I'm not doing enough, that I'm not enough, that I don't have time. That is such a vicious kind of attack on us in a way, that that scarcity mentality, we don't even know that we're buying into it. So
Exactly.
thank you for sharing that one. That's huge, and that's radical for people who are really consumed with success, achievement, all that kind of thing. Let's go on to another one of your common dating pitfalls and mating pitfalls. What about a woman who keeps attracting the same man over and over again in a different body? What kind of shadow aspect is that, and how do you help her with that one?
Want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I can really speak to this. Johnny
Right.
can too. But my experience, that was my personal experience when I was single, is that I kept attracting the same man in a different body, and the same crap would come up in the relationship that would ultimately end the relationship. And it wasn't until I hired a love coach, and I took her advice. I was doing what she told me to do. I did a lot of personal growth, personal and spiritual development work. I really invested more time, energy, and money, like hard, cold cash, in me than I'd ever done before in my life. And that's self-care. That's meaning I gave myself a level of commitment and self-care that I'd never done before, based on my love coach's advice. And I remember one day I was talking to her on the phone, and I said, I was complaining about the latest relationship breakup, and about how all these guys were like, they're just all alike, all these men are alike. And she said something that really pissed me off. She said, Lara, you are the common denominator in all of your relationships that aren't working. And it really, really got me upset. But under the upset I recognized there was a huge, big block of truth in that. And that's what started me, or kept me going to the commitment level that I needed to do the work, to stay the course, to attract the love of my life. Mm-hmm. And so that idea of it being us, of being you, being the common denominator, each person who's watching this, you're the common denominator in all of your relationships. It's not an easy truth, and it's not to blame you. It's not a blame energy at all. That energy actually doesn't work, and it doesn't help you become magnetic to the life that you want. It's more of a taking responsibility, and that's a different energy. It's a totally different energy than blame. And once you can take responsibility for your part in attracting those relationships, because you're the one that said yes to whatever it was that wasn't working for you, and you're the one that attracted him, and you're the one that stayed with him for however long you did. Once you can take responsibility for that, oh my gosh, talk about stepping into your power. Then I believe that at that point you really become truly powerful. Because if you state that you're responsible for this, well, if you're responsible for that, what else can you be responsible for? You can then take the steering wheel of your life back and drive it toward what you want, with your higher power as your co-pilot, of course. But really, that gives you your power back when you can take responsibility.
Yep. So women, we can no longer say, "Oh, those men, they're all alike."
No, no.
Not if we want love, of course.
Exactly. It doesn't serve you to do that.
No, it doesn't. And it's such a good point about taking responsibility, because just the act of taking responsibility gives you power.
Exactly.
As long as you're saying, "Oh, they're all alike," you're powerless. So you're
Yes.
kind of taking a victim position, saying that they're the ones to blame, and I'm the poor victim because these men, they're just no good, whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's a very, very good point. Did you want to add to that, Johnny?
Oh, just that when you're dating the same person in a different body, what's often happening is years are going by, and you're not moving forward. It's just like busy work, It's just like if your car is not engaged, not in gear, you can push the gas and the engine will make noise and burn gas and stuff like that, but there won't be forward motion. And so, like the person who dates the same when they turn 30 as they did when they were 20 hasn't really moved forward. The person that dates the same when she's 40 as when she was 30 hasn't really moved forward. And what we find a lot with women who come work with us, 30, 40, or whatever, is that their approach is the same now as when they were 21. And good Lord, I mean, which one of us really want in our life to be like we were when we were 21, other than maybe physically,
Right.
but
right.
like mentally and spiritually, we're like, oh, thank goodness I'm not like, like that anymore. But unfortunately, because again, we're in a society that's not encouraging us to invest time and resources in the area of our relationships and our self-knowingness, that we just like poo-poo that, because you got a new app, you got a new phone, you got a new thing. All those things are great, but there needs to be some time for you to dive in and purposeful, not just like drive-by learning, like purposeful learning about what's going on inside, because how we are at 20, of course, is a reflection of how we were at 10 and stuff like that. So we want to really look at that so that we can really change the direction of where, if the snowball was kind of like rolling downhill, can you change that direction? The answer is yes. So whether you've had 1 divorce, 2 divorce, 5 divorce, grown up in a home where there was, no examples of love, or like I did, like a lot of people did, abuse, whatever it is, you can actually shift that and change that.
Yes.
But you can kind of wander into that floundering around thing, but you really can't wander out.
Yeah.
You really got to be more purposeful about it, because otherwise you'll be, up on the latest TV show and not up on like your own personal growth.
That is such a good point, because if the same man is coming back to you, over and over again in a different body, that means that's an issue. That's the issue that you have to face, whatever that type of man is. Is he abandoning? Is he neglectful? Whatever it is, that's the part of you that you've got to look at and say, oh, in what way am I doing this to myself? And unfortunately, we do tend to abandon ourselves and neglect ourselves, which is what we were talking about earlier. So if we don't heal that, how can we attract something greater than that, right? I believe that's what your message is. Your message is, be it on the inside, you'll attract it on the outside.
Right.
Yes.
That is what I'm hearing from you. So let me ask you we're kind of getting close to the end, but I'm going to ask the big question that everybody always wants to know. Is there a soulmate for everyone?
We believe that soulmate love is your birthright. And it's not your destiny. Now, those are two different words. It is your birthright. And you make it your destiny. In other words, you claim your birthright by the daily and consistent actions that you take of self-love. And so that's the work that we do with folks, is around claiming that self-love and taking action on a daily and consistent level toward the dream that you have of soulmate love, and really the whole life of your dreams, all of it. So it is for everyone, especially if you are on this call or on this video conference. There is something inside. There's a little spark. There's something inside that's saying, maybe it's for me. Oh, I'm scared, but I want it. Ooh, whatever it is, you're here for a reason. And so I believe that if you, or even if it's just somebody maybe you're here for somebody else. If they have a desire and a spark inside of their heart, that their higher or your higher power has put it in your heart for a reason. And that means that it is definitely your birthright, and you can have it. You just have to take action toward it.
And if you're scared, if that idea scares you, well, that's for sure the shadow showing up his little head.
Exactly.
And so you want to move in that direction. You want to go.
You want to move forward in spite of fear.
Yeah. And I find that when there is an area that is fearful, that's exactly what you need to go into. If you're interested in growth, of course.
Yes.
And so we hope all of our viewers are.
I'm sure they are.
Dr. Lara and Johnny, it's been such a pleasure and such a joy to have you here and to listen to your wonderful, wonderful, fabulous wisdom. Everybody can learn more about Dr. Lara and Johnny's work on johnnyandlara.com. We've got the link right down here below the video. And I just want to thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be a part of this amazing video conference that you put together. We just really love being here. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.